Hi, I'm Alana Lowe's and I'm cooking for 9MSN Food. And today we're cooking rough puff pastry. And we're going to make some little raspberry tarts that we're going to pop in the oven and just let all that flaky, puffy goodness come out. So the key to rough puff pastry is using equal quantities of flour to equal quantities of butter. So I have 250 grams of flour in here. I haven't sifted it or anything yet. Just pop it into your food processor. Give it a little blitz, and that just loosens it for you and it gives you the same effect as sifting it. Now with the butter, I've used really cold, chilled butter. We're just going to cube it because we want it to stay nice and chunky in the flour when we process it. We'll just give that a quick blast. Just use the pulse, so you just want to just sort of break up the butter, but you don't want it to blend too much into the flour. And that's ready to go. It's nice and chunky still. The flour's there and the butter as well. So we'll just tip that out onto the surface here. So as you can see, there's still nice chunky pieces of butter in there, and that's what's going to cause those lovely flaky layers. Now to this, we've just got some chilled water here. Roughly you need about 100 mils, but I would always have a little bit more because you can just add and just feel your way through making the pastry. You don't want it too wet, but you always want to have some chilled water ready. So just make a well, pour it in the middle, and just add, just slowly bring it in. The worst thing you can do when you're making puff pastry is to overwork it. Just continue to add and bring it in. You just really need light, delicate hands making this. Like a fairy's touch, really. You can always add a little bit more if you need to, but if you add too much water, then you're in all sorts of trouble. Okay. So just get all those last little bits and just try and stick it on. So we're going to start rolling this out. Now the key to when rolling out this pastry is that we're rolling it out and then we're folding it in like a book. That's what's going to create the layers as well. And you can still see that when you're rolling out this pastry that there are big chunks of butter. You just might need a little bit of flour just on ready, just to sprinkle over. And then just roll that out, just lightly roll and fold it over one way and then fold it over the other way. Give it a little turn, sprinkle a little bit of flour, and then we're going to roll it out again. Just fold that over and fold it over again. Sprinkle with some flour, and then one more time before we're going to put this in the freezer for 5 minutes to rest. Now we're going to pop that in the freezer just for 5 minutes, just so it can rest and so that butter can harden up again. So the pastry dough has been resting now for 5 minutes. So we're going to unwrap it and we're going to do the roll and folds exactly the same as we did last time. Work quite quickly with it so that that butter doesn't melt. And as you can still see is that those chunks of butter are still in there. Wrap it back up again and back in the freezer for another 5 minutes. So we've got the last rolled and folds to do. And these will just give those extra last few layers. So we've got lots of flaky, buttery layers in for the pastry. We'll just roll it out. You can still see that there's some chunky bits of butter in there. That's exactly how you want it. I'm going to fold that up. We'll just wrap it back in the same plastic and we'll pop that in the fridge for 10 minutes. That will give it a really good amount of time to rest properly before we roll it out. Pop a little bit of jam on it and some fresh raspberries and into the oven. So we're finished with the final resting in the fridge. So we're ready to roll it out and start making a little raspberry tart. Just a little bit of flour on the workbench. We'll roll it out. And you can see how nice and soft this pastry is. It's just absolutely beautiful pastry to work with. There we go. Now I'm just using a little round cutter, a little tart pastry. I think the fluted edges will give a really pretty effect to it. Just peel that back a bit. So just using another little cookie cutter, just lightly press it into the centre. You don't want to cut all the way through. You're just creating a little ridge so that the puff pastry that's on the outside of it will puff up. Just prick the base. And this just helps that the puff pastry won't rise in that section. Just be on the outside bit. Now I've got some jam here. I'm just going to spread a little bit in the middle of the puff pastry. So we're just making like little jam pastries, I guess is what you would call them. Spread it right to the edges of where you've had the cookie. Now, we'll top it with some fresh raspberries and just push them down into the jam. Now, just using a slide, just lift it up onto the tray. Just brush the edges with a little bit of egg. That will just make the edges to be nice and glossy and crispy brown. And we'll pop this in an oven for about sort of 15 to 20 minutes until it's nicely puffed up, golden brown, and the oven will be at about 200 degrees. So here we have our quick rough puff pastry little tartlets. They've been in the oven now for about 15 to 20 minutes. And look at them, they look absolutely, that pastry is so flaky. Just a little bit of icing sugar over the top. A little bit of whipped cream. And there we have it. There's the quick rough puff pastry jam tartlets with some raspberries. And it was as simple as that, and you can do it at home as well. Thanks so much for watching.